Alright, so I'm going to walk you through a little bit on how to write a lab report to go along with the lab. So go ahead and take out this lab report. It should be on page 4 of your interactive notebook. Okay, we're going to do this one paragraph at a time, so let's look at the first paragraph. Okay, first paragraph, there are 3 sections to it. The first one is the objective. So right now, go ahead and shade your objective green. Okay, so this whole section should be shaded green on this page. Now, in addition to this, when you're done writing your objective, you'll also shade it green on your actual lab report. Now, when you write your objective, you need to leave out the gender-specific pronouns. So instead of saying, I did this in the lab, you would say, this was carried out, or something was done. So you want to leave out the I, the we. So when you write the objective, you wouldn't say that we did this. Instead, you would say the purpose of this lab was to, and then tell me what was the purpose of the lab, or what was your objective, what were you trying to accomplish. So that's the first part. Once you've written your objective, which it just needs to be 1 or 2 sentences, go ahead and shade that green on your lined paper. Okay, then we're ready to do the results. Okay, the results are going to be similar. It's still part of the first paragraph. So if we look at this, we want to make sure that we're writing this as one paragraph. So here's our lab report. Let's say we write it. Here's my objective right here. So just to make sure you're clear, you're going to shade this green because that's your objective. And then you have your period. Now we move on to the results. So we're going to do the same thing with the results. We're going to write out our results in the lab report format. So once we've written out all of our results, then we take the highlighter, and this one gets shaded yellow. So just like we did the objective, we're going to shade this one yellow. In the results section, you just give me a summary of the data. Don't tell me all the data, just tell me a summary of it, and give me, if there are any graphs, make sure to explain those graphs, things like that. And finally, the third part is the error analysis. So don't forget, on this paper you're also shading this red, and the above one shaded yellow. So we have our error analysis. The error analysis is where you just discuss the possible causes of error. So even if you don't calculate a number, make sure you're including any possible errors. That could be error with the instrument, things like that. Now if we jump back over here, let's pretend this was our lab report. We have our objective and it's shaded green. We have our results that's shaded yellow. Now we have our error. So we go ahead, I'm going to write 2 sentences about my error. There's the first sentence. Here's my second sentence. There's my error. That's the end of my first paragraph. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to shade this red because this is my error. So your first paragraph has 3 sections. So this is all part of paragraph 1. Now as we move on to the second paragraph is our analysis question. And this entire paragraph is going to be orange. So when you have the analysis paragraph, you are taking your analysis questions, you are rewriting the question with the answer into paragraph form. So let's take a look at some of the questions we might have. Alright, here are the analysis questions from the lab from last class. So remember, usually it'll be marked analysis questions. Just like that. So in this case, it's not up there, but you know these are the analysis questions. Let's focus on question number 1. Question number 1 says, in this experiment, what was the purpose of water? So when we go back to our lab report, we want to put this along with the answer. So with the answer as either one sentence or as a series of sentences. So now that we're on paragraph 2, we're answering our questions. So I'm going to say, in this experiment, the water was a solvent. So again, in this experiment, the water was a solvent. I combine the question with the answer. Now, this is a very simple answer, but there's actually a lot more detail that you could add. So I wouldn't leave it at this. Instead, I would elaborate on the question a little bit, and I would explain what solvent is, why water was used as a solvent, anything like that, any extra information that I know that I could add to this, and then that would be the answer to my first question. So let's say I then went on to elaborate on this question a little bit further, and now I'm done with the first question. So I'm going to go back and highlight that section orange. So I'm done with that question, but that's just one of five questions that I've done now. So if we look back over at the lab report, the actual lab with the analysis questions, that's question 1 that we've just done. Now we have questions 2, 3, 4, and 5 to answer, so you would answer those exactly the same way. So now we answer question 2, so start writing your response to question 2, just how I did the response to question 1, shade it orange, okay, and then you go on to do question 3, question 4, question 5, so you're finishing these questions up, and when you're done, the entire paragraph should be shaded orange. And at the end of that paragraph, you should have answered all of the analysis questions within paragraph 2. Okay, the third paragraph, this is our conclusion paragraph. So within the conclusion paragraph, we are simply going to restate the objective at first. Okay, this is the objective from above, but not only are we restating the objective, but we also need to relate it to what you learn in the lab. So what is it that we learn in the lab that relates back to the objective? So the objective was more of the purpose of the lab, and what did you learn that connects back to the objective? So in the third paragraph, that should be your first sentence or maybe 2 or 3 sentences. So for paragraph 3, you start by writing out, tell me what the objective was. So that's what you had already written down at the beginning. And then you're also going to connect what you learn in the lab to that objective. So give me another sentence about that. And once you're done with that, then you can shade it green because that's what color it's supposed to be shaded. Okay, the final portion is going to be show how this lab can relate to a real-world problem or topic. So you want to connect this lab, what we did in this lab, to anything in the real world and just briefly explain how it connects or why it's important, how it's relevant to you, anything like that. So you go ahead and start talking, tell me how this relates to the real world, okay, or maybe say why it's relevant to you, how can you apply this, anything like that. So explain yourself. Remember, you want to elaborate. You want these to be very detailed and very thorough. And once you're finished, this entire section can be shaded blue. So you have your restatement of the objective up here, and right here you have your real world application, things like that. And once you're done, you're now finished with your lab report.